I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Kathy, and this is Latinx Collective Conversations, where we talk about private practice, mindset, and building community as Latinx clinicians. So, Vanessa, today I thought we would talk about the topic visibility. So, you and I have been very visible lately, where we've been at
Very.
conferences. We were at an event this past weekend, and someone mentioned that, visibility. And someone in the audience asked a great question, and it made me think about just this topic and different ways that we can be visible within this field. And I also like to mention that within this field, that's not common for us to be visible and out there. This is a really new thing. So, you, as someone who does have visibility on social media, I'd love to hear your take on what visibility means to you.
Absolutely. And I understand why it's not common because we're taught from the get, like, make sure you don't self disclose too much. You have to be a blank slate in how you enter the therapy space.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was written by certain types of therapists a gazillion years ago, but the field has certainly evolved. And of course, when we share about ourselves, we always have to keep the client in mind so that we do it with a goal and not just to share just because, to share about ourselves. But because of the way that we're trained, and I think that it probably goes across the board, right? For counselors, social workers, and psychologists, we all have that underlying theme in mind. It reminds me of when I first started, it was so ingrained, especially when I was getting my hours. And my supervisor at the time, she was like, "Hey, you can't put yourself out there." And there was such an emphasis of like, well, you're not even fully licensed. Like, you can't do anything. You almost don't know what you're doing because you need supervision. And that was always a fear. And I know we've talked about the fear of being seen. I didn't even want to put it on LinkedIn because if she came across my LinkedIn, I thought I was going to get in trouble. The very first time I was out there being seen, it was a New Jersey School Counselor Association event partnered with New Jersey principals or administrators. And they asked me to talk about being a school counselor, the responsibilities and roles of a school counselor as it, falls within the scope of the school. And we've talked about this, I'm passionate and I break rules all about putting school counselors first and really doing the roles that we're supposed to be doing. And I believe that that was December 2017. I remember because it was right after that that I was like, wait a second. I got such a good response that I was like, I'm helping other people. Not about me and be putting myself at the forefront. I was helping school counselors, giving them ideas. And then I was helping administrators understand, oh, this is the way that I can use this professional to help a student body. So it was after that that I opened up a website and I started blogging. I wasn't fully licensed, so I wasn't doing mental health stuff, but it was just about school counseling and how you can help your kids and then help parents can help their kids at home. And after that, I did the social media and little by little, I became more comfortable of putting myself out there again, not with shine a light on Vanessa, but shine a light on how you can further help kids. And that's what really propels things in the direction and putting me where I am now, but in the scope of always helping.
And you said this to me before that the supervisor told you, like, you're not fully licensed. And what's interesting about that, you weren't fully licensed, but you had X amount of years. How many years of experience at that point
At
in
that point, probably like 16 or so. 16, yes, because then I retired at 18.
but that's what I'm saying. You had all those years behind you. And to say that a license is the only thing that would make it so that you're like legit to be able to say these things or be visible or speak about it is kind of a little, I don't know. I don't know what the word is, but to say that you can't
Doesn't
you
make
can't
sense.
speak on this. It doesn't make sense there, right? That you wouldn't be able to speak on it because you had all the expertise and life expertise on top of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then what really is the interesting part is that through putting myself out there, that opportunities come, right? And it's always again with the focus of how is this going to help people? So I always share the story of like, yeah, I was on the Today Show because a producer showed up in my DMs and said, would you be able to join us and talk about, that was during the pandemic, like students going back to
Mm.
school with masks on. And at first, of course, I didn't believe, like I Googled this person to know, to the ends because I was like, wait, is this for real? Or is this somebody trying to scam me? But when we begin to put ourselves out there and be more visible, we help potential clients. We help people who may not even be clients, but who perhaps are needing the help. And then we're given all this opportunity again to put ourselves in the scope of helping others, which is really what we do as licensed therapists.
Yeah, no, definitely. And something that you said that stuck out is that it wasn't shine the light on Vanessa. It is you want to talk about these things to help other people. And I want to shift a little bit too, not just that you're helping other people, but you're helping other people that look like you, right? That sound like you, that they can actually see themselves in you because they may have heard the same message somewhere else, but from a different person that they couldn't relate to. And they'd say, what do they know? They don't understand my culture. They don't look like me. So I think that's huge. And in one of these events that we were at, someone said that, right? That it's so important for people to see other people that look like them doing these things. And it brings up that possibility that, oh, well, then I can do it too,
Yeah.
right? And also, there are different ways to be visible. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I would say I'm not super visible. I've had to be, right? I've had to change that a little bit. And I also enjoy it more now. But there are different ways to be visible, and I think that a lot of people get stuck on, oh, it's speaking or it's being on videos all the time. So I wanted to talk a little bit about other ways that we can be visible and in different businesses, right? Because as you know, I have my group practice, but I'm not the face of my group practice because it is my group practice and I want everyone to shine. I want to highlight different things in a group practice. So in that setting, I'm not on video all the time, but I am posting when I'm engaging. And there's a very different way that I'm visible there, which is I'm connecting on messages, I'm emailing, oh, let's do a Zoom chat on the back end with other therapists. That's my favorite way to connect with other people. And then we have the collective where we do some more videos. We are now speaking more. So there are ways we're doing this YouTube channel. There are different ways for you to be visible, but there are also blogs, right? A networking event, showing up at a networking event when otherwise you're like, I absolutely do not want to go. We had a networking event. What is that? 3 weeks ago at this point,
Yeah.
but we showed up, right? We're there. So there are different ways to be visible. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Absolutely. And I I love and hate when you bring up the word networking because my immediate response is like, oh, I cringe and I'm like, oh no, I have to talk to people. But I mean, as therapists, we talk to people. And we not only do we
Yes.
talk to people, but we have the really great skill of mindful listening because that's what we do with our clients. And it's not about what we're going to respond with. It's really how we're taking the information in to really help the people feel seen and feel heard. And whether that's with clients or whether that's with collective members or somebody
Yes.
who potentially could be a referral source, or maybe who could end up turning out to be a good friend, listening is the number one skill. So don't get scared of the word networking like I do. For everybody who is listening and watching, because it's just chatting. But not only being visible on social media, because that now a lot of therapists say, "Oh, well, I don't want to be an influencer. I'm not Kim Kardashian or somebody like that." But we're not trying to sell anything. More often than not, we're probably trying to educate people and to help
Mm.
people understand mental health concepts or really psychoeducation around that, right? Not talking about a diagnosis per se, but putting information out there to see how it's going to help people. And that's not really, it is influencing, but it's not becoming an influencer as we think about being on social media. But it doesn't always have to be on camera. As you just stated, it can be in so many other ways.
No, for sure. And I think people get like that. I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to be an influencer, which is nothing against anyone who is, right? That's wonderful if that's what they love to do. But as therapists, I think, again, what you talked about in the beginning is that we have the blank slate, how we were trained, all of that. Don't self disclose, don't say what's going on in your life. And I think things are changing, right? I think people are seeing therapists more as relatable as humans. I actually had a client tell me, Kathy, if you would have answered my, do you have kids with, why is that important to you? He's like, I would have walked out. He's like, I would have
Of
left. He's
course.
like, no way. He's like, I have trust issues and you don't want to tell me if you have kids. And it's true, right? And there are some things about us that obviously we can't hide. If we have a wedding ring on, you're married to someone, right? And we're human. We're human first before anything else. So, of course, with limits, and actually, so interesting. The event that we were at this past weekend, someone talked about that. She did a great job talking about, we can do it in an ethical way. Because I think people get scared that it's not going to be ethical or they're just going to disclose too much or my client's going to see me. We can't in a public, if you're on social media or if you're on a podcast or if you wrote a blog or if you are on the Today Show, right? Those are things that a client may have access to. but that we can do it in a way that feels very ethical and very safe for us.
Absolutely. On social, you hear a lot of people say, oh, you have to have that no like and trust factor, right? And that's not just to become an influencer, but even to be someone's therapist. They don't have to know you like your best friend knows you, but there does have to be a level, like you said, of trust and of liking you enough that they're going to hold weight to what you're saying and want to apply what you're talking about and how to help that client. But the same is true. And I'm going to take the route of LinkedIn because it's known as a professional networking site that you can put yourself out there in that way so that people can become familiar with you and then get to the point where they trust what you say. You're putting yourself out there in a way that people are going to relate to you and you're becoming known for what you do, which we don't want to be influencers per se. But if you don't become known for what you do, how are people ever going to pick up the call and say, I want to work with you in whatever offering you have to offer?
And I'm glad you went into that because that's exactly what I was going to say. If we don't tell people what we do, they cannot find us. They won't know where we are. Right. And I know those cultural things come up, like not bragging, staying humble. Our work will show what it does. How? We're talking to people. It's all confidential. No, not everyone will know. And so you have to be visible in some way, in the way that you're comfortable, in order for people to know where to find you and how to find you. Because how many times do we get that? Oh, it took me so long to find you. I've been looking to work with a Latina who speaks Spanish, and we don't have to do our whole session in Spanish, but I want to throw in a couple of words in there. Is that okay? I've been looking for someone that specializes in X, Y, and Z. And we get those phone calls all the time, which is also part of the reason that we started the directory because we had all of these clinicians in our collective as part of our membership, and we're like, well, we need to do a directory because people are looking for these types of clinicians and we hear it all the time. But people can't find us if we're not visible in our way. Right. And I stress that all the time. It has to be in the way that we are comfortable with. But the truth is, and we'll stand that if people don't know what you're doing, don't know how to find you, they're not gonna connect with you.
Yeah. So whether that is showing up on whatever social media platform works for you, doesn't have to be social media. It can be going to networking events. It can be going to conferences and not just sitting in your chair, but actually getting up and talking to people and making intentional and genuine connection. And then maybe you challenge yourself after going to so many conferences, then maybe you present at one, right? And it doesn't have to be conferences for CEs. It can be as simple as being on a panel appearance, right? Being on a panel on your community where you're talking about mental health in general. And that's not something that we have to prepare for per se, because that's what we do day in and day out. So you already have that knowledge, and it's all about just making pretend that microphone isn't even there and sharing your knowledge with other people. So there are different ways to put yourself out there. And the more that you do it, the more that you will be more comfortable. And then the more that you will make connections with people, whether that is clients, referral sources, or again, just building your community, which is so very important, especially in the space that we're in, where it can very often sometimes feel lonely, but it doesn't have to if you put yourself out.
Definitely. So we challenge you to do one thing, even if it's one thing this month to be visible, one thing different. You never know where that's going to lead, right? But just doing one thing to be visible. Again, list, networking event, attending a conference, taking that speaking event. Someone asks you to go and speak at their classroom, do it, right? A video. Someone invited you to speak in their podcast. Whatever it is, doing one thing, we challenge you to be visible.
Yes. And then take a picture. You don't have to post it, but take a picture for you so that you can remind yourself that it actually happened. And if you have the courage to post it, especially on a platform like LinkedIn, this is where I was, this is what I did, and this is how I can help people. That is the extra bonus point and what's going to take it one step further. So we hope that you can take us up on our challenge. We hope that this conversation is beneficial and that it helps you build confidence and that it helps you build community. And as a reminder, this conversation is for educational purposes only and should not be substituted for clinical, financial, or business advice. See you next time.